And now it is my pleasure to welcome and turn things over to your moderator for today's event, Franz, Senior Geotechnical Engineer and Business Development Executive at Keller, North America, and President of the Academy of Geoprofessionals. Welcome.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the CEC and Academy of Geoprofessionals webinar introduction to board certification for geotechnical engineer. As Robin said, my name is Franz, and I'm privileged to serve as president of AGP's Board of Trustees for 2025. Over the next 30 minutes or so, we plan to share some background on board certification, as well as perspectives from 5 practitioners and consumers on the value of the BC.GE. I'd now like to introduce Jennifer Hofmann, Director of Civil Engineering Certification. Jen?
Good afternoon or good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on elevating your career with CEC's Board Certification in Geotechnical Engineering. As Ray mentioned, my name is Jennifer Hofmann, and I'm the Director of CEC at the American Society of Civil Engineers, and I'm really glad you could join us today. Civil Engineering Certification, or CEC, is dedicated to advancing the profession by recognizing and promoting leadership, expertise, and high standards in specialized areas of civil engineering. Through board certification, we aim to elevate public trust and confidence in the exceptional qualifications of our board-certified engineers. Geotechnical engineering in particular is vital to all features of physical infrastructure, which must be resilient, sustainable, and exhibit long-term performance, which requires precision, quality, expertise, and ethical responsibility. The CEC certification program distinguishes professionals as leaders and technical experts committed to lifelong learning and the highest standards, playing a crucial role in infrastructure development, risk mitigation, and environmental protection. Today, we'll explore how certification can enhance your career, strengthen the civil engineering profession, and provide value not only to individuals, but to employers, clients, and the public. Now, to lead us deeper into this important discussion, I'm delighted to introduce Jerry DiMaggio, who is a board-certified geotechnical engineer and the past president of AGP, as well as a current CEC board member. Jerry will share his insights and experiences and more about the value of board certification. Over to you, Jerry.
Okay, thank you, Jen. So a little bit of background, first of all. The Civil Engineering Certification Program is not new. It may be new to many of you, but it was actually created in 2004. And it was created by the ASCE Board of Direction to provide a mechanism for post-licensure, and that's a very important statement, certification of various specialties in civil engineering. And everyone on the line recognizes how deep and how wide civil engineering is. The CEC specialty certification is a voluntary post-licensure credential that provides recognition for advanced expertise in a technical specialty, superior experience, strong ethical background, and a commitment to lifelong learning and continued professional development. The critical nature of the infrastructure that has been created has captured the attention of the public and authorities. The CEC credential provides benefits to owners of infrastructure facilities, to employers, and most of all to practicing civil engineers like all of us on the line with you today. It also benefits the public. And the public worldwide, in particular in the US now, with the infrastructure conditions that we have, places an extreme level of trust in engineers. They expect for all critical infrastructure facilities that the engineers working on them and leading them are highly qualified individuals. Civil engineering certification demonstrates that exceptionally qualified and experienced civil engineering talent designs, builds, operates, and maintains high-performance ready infrastructure. It's the only professional credential for civil engineers by civil engineers and recognized by civil engineers who have demonstrated advanced knowledge and skills. And those two operative words are very important in a particular specialty area. Now, getting to know, we're off a little bit. Could we go back a slide, please? CEC board certification provides several things. It demonstrates specialty expertise beyond the professional licensure. It identifies experienced civil engineers with leadership, project management, and communication skills. It's recognized internationally. In fact, several of our geotechnical board certified professionals are outside the US. It's administered by a not-for-profit national peer organization, and it's accredited by CESB. It's available currently in seven specialty disciplines that you see on this slide. Now, we think solely of geotechnical engineering, but I want to draw your attention to the fact that it's 7 specialty areas, all under the umbrella of civil engineering, and that list is growing almost on a daily basis. Perhaps I'm exaggerating a bit. Specialty board certification is the next career milestone after earning your professional license. It's the highest recognition that a civil engineer can achieve in their career. Now, there's several benefits of specialty certification. Highlighted here are 5 areas that you may be somewhat familiar with. It's been demonstrated that it improves the project execution and ensures overall success of complex infrastructure projects, and infrastructure projects get more complex every single day. Higher salaries, we could all use more money. You've entered into a profession, so your career development is imperative because you might work, hopefully you'll learn a little lesson from me and retire. You might work for a number of decades, you all will. It contributes to an overall reduction in project risk, liability, and it minimizes risk for delays and excessive cost of construction. And finally, an added benefit, it lowers professional insurance rates. Board certification recognizes specialty experience and expertise. So it's beyond taking an exam. It recognizes good communication skills, both written and oral. It is a commitment to continuing education and professional development because you have entered into a profession. It's not a job. It recognizes high ethical standards, and it demonstrates project management and leadership skills. And of course, we all must have good moral character. What I like to think of when I think of board certification as an engineer, as I sit at my doctor's office, I feel to myself as I look at their board certifications mounted on their walls that I'm in trusted hands. The same philosophy would apply to you. Hiring a board-certified engineer assures the most qualified professionals are working on projects. Remember, we have to earn the public trust. They expect that. We owe our clients the highest level of quality and sophistication and experience and skills that we can offer. Now, this slide speaks a bit to what insurance providers are saying, and these are kind of wordy slides, but 2 of the insurance quotes that you see here are recognized by insurance carriers. So board certification, you may have not heard of it prior to this webinar, is slowly and progressively and continually gaining recognition from a large number of people. Now, agencies and projects specify on a growing number of situations, or they require board-certified engineers be in charge of the project team. And you see listed here, beginning on the left, 3 pretty diverse physical infrastructure projects where board certification was either specified in an RFP or was specifically listed that the lead project geotechnical engineer be a board-certified engineer. CEC is also signed agreements with the U.S. Army Board of Engineers, the World Association of Waterborne Transport Infrastructure, and is growing each day. Perhaps that's an exaggeration again, but certainly progressively growing, to get more and more public and private owners to list and to demonstrate and sign on to agreements to require and to acknowledge board certification of geotechnical engineers, as well as the other CEC disciplines. I want to now turn the program over to my very good friend, Sebastian, who'll give you an overview of AGP and the board certification that I've introduced.
Thank you, Jerry. Appreciate it. Hello, everyone. My name is Sebastian Lobo-Guerrero. I'm the president-elect for AGP. AGP, taking it from where Jerry was taking us, which is CEC, that would be the umbrella. AGP, Academy of Geo-Professionals, was launched in 2008 by Geo-Institute leaders and CEC leaders. It was the second certification program by CEC. BC.GE certification is accredited by the American Engineering Specialty Awards. So now we're entering into this space that Jerry was describing, right? It's a very specific certification on geotechnical engineering. And since the inception, AGP has certified hundreds of BC.GEs. Now let's talk about how you can earn your specialty, how you can earn your BC.GE. Obviously, the step one is select the specialty that you confirm the eligibility. Two is to submit your application and payment. This is now done extremely easy online. We have a new system that was released last year, and it's making the process even easier. It goes through an application review, and it could be an exam. The exam is not a traditional, written exam that you sit down for hours. It's not a PE exam. I know we're going to cover more about this later on, but it's more of a presentation and demonstration of that you have acquired the body of knowledge in geotechnical engineering. The part that I want to focus more is what is the eligibility for the BC.GE, because this also has changed in recent years. The first one is to have a PE license. If you're in the US, that would be your PE, as we all know it. If you are abroad, as we mentioned at the beginning, we have many BC.GEs that are actually international. You just need to have the equivalent on the country where you live and where you work. You have to have an undergraduate degree in engineering. And this is the part that has changed a little bit. You need to have 10 years plus experience in geotechnical engineering if you have a master's degree. But if you don't have a master's degree, you can just have 15 years of experience. This is also important to clarify, and I get this question a lot. This experience does not have to be after your PE license. So you can have your experience parallel to when you got your license, and this helps you also on your day. You have to demonstrate attainment of the geotechnical engineering body of knowledge, as I mentioned before, and obviously it's extremely important that you adhere to the AEC Code of Ethics. All right, so now you apply, you get what you have worked your entire life for, you're enjoying your profession, and then you get to be part of the AGP annual induction ceremony, which in my opinion, it's one of the nicest celebrations that we do as a geotechnical engineer. It's the beginning of the Geo-Congress every year. It's actually the first activity. It's on Sunday. We recognize the people that have been obtained or during the last year, the BC.GEs in the last year. It doesn't matter if you got it in March. If it was the day after the ceremony, you can participate on the one the next year. It doesn't have to be the month before the ceremony, anything like that. And it's truly a celebration of who you are, what you dedicate your life to, what your profession is. You will be recognized there. You will get your plaque. You will get your pin. And also we have the champagne toast, which is I like to call it the official start of the Geo-Congress. It's a celebration. We take pictures with the board of trustees. We take pictures with all the BC.GEs that attend the event. So I know I'm just talking about a party and a celebration, but it's a very meaningful because you have dedicated your entire career to get to this point to obtain the highest certification in geotech engineer. And now it's your time to shine. Next. All right, and then we have to acknowledge and we have to thank the supporters of the program. CEC has the option for different companies to support the program. You can become a sponsor. There is more details on the links and on this chat, and I'm sure online you can find more information. This is something that probably is a little different that people are not used to, but it's partners that we develop in the industry that want to support this initiative. So if you want to become one of these partners and go along in this team, you're more than welcome. And we can talk more about it. Next. All right, so I pass it back to you, right?
Thanks, Sebastian. Quick thought from me, and then we'll have you and 4 other BC.GEs comment on the benefits and impacts of certification. From my perspective, through certification, distinguished peer practitioners evaluate the candidate's knowledge and body of work. This assessment probes beyond the metrics of simply longevity in the profession and the prowess at sitting for exams. The board certification confirms the individual has demonstrated a skill set which adds value to organizations and projects. Sebastian, would you share why you chose to pursue board certification?
Absolutely, right. So, I mean, to me, being a BCG is really the pinnacle of our profession. I mean, in terms of certification, BCG is the pinnacle certification in geotechnical engineering. And what I mean this, and it goes back into what I was explaining on the ceremony part, we go through our entire career, right? So we start with our undergrad, maybe you have the option to go for a master's, then you go for the F.E. exam, then you get a PE. And most of us, I think at that point, I got a Ph.D., but I think at some point we thought we were done. And then we realized that there is something else that you really should pursue. And I'll give the example in my personal case, because I was not always the biggest fan of this certification, and it sounds very contradictory that I'm the president-elect who basically replace you, right, in a few months, because when I finished my PhD and I thought, I'm done. I don't want any more certifications or any more letters. And then I find out that I needed to have the FE, right, to become an EIT. And then in industry, I needed the PE. So definitely when I did the PE, I was like, I'm done. I'm truly done. And I remember seeing the ads for this, and I personally thought it was not relevant. And I was incorrect. And it took me years, right? I started seeing many of my geotech idols, many present in this call, as for example, Jerry and John, and even, obviously you, Ray. And I started seeing that all of you guys have this, and I started paying more attention. And that's really when I understood that this is really the way to differentiate yourself as somebody that is specialized in geotech engineer. And I know Jerry already mentioned the example of the doctor, but think about that. When you go to the doctor, you just don't go to a general doctor, right? You go to a specialist in, I don't know, if your knee is the part that is hurting or whatever it is, there is a very specific doctor that treats that. So for us, that's the reason I said it's the pinnacle certification in geotech engineering. That's this. This is really what you have dedicated your whole career, and is the way to show it. It's from 2 ways. It's a personal satisfaction that you obtain this, but obviously, and probably more importantly, is the fact that to your clients you can demonstrate this, and that's going to have a huge influence on the work that you can bring, let's say, as you are a professional in the industry.
Thanks, Sebastian. In your role as a geotechnical engineer at your firm, how has the BC.GE certification given you additional credibility and standing professionally?
It's an excellent question. Thank you. It is important because we it's displayed on every single document that we sign, that we pass to a client. It also has a huge role on the letters of interest and statement of qualifications when we are pursuing work, right? I mean, I'm not the only one in the company that has it. We have some of my coworkers also have it. And we always present that for a client. Keep in mind, many of the clients that we have are not in the geotechnical market, right? So when they see that they need geotechnical services and they have somebody coming or a company coming and showing this and demonstrating and saying, I have this group of professionals that are board certified as a geotech engineer. And I want to repeat it one more time. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to civil engineering in general. I have a very great, image of that. I'm very proud of being a civil engineer. But in the world that we work, it's important to differentiate yourself from just being a regular civil engineer to being a geotech engineer. And it's important for everyone in this call to understand that the PE is for civil engineering. It does not show that you are an expert or a certified geotech engineer.
Have your employer and your clients actively recognized your credential?
Yes, they do. They do. And obviously that goes into a questioning sometimes, right? That the client said, what is this BC.GE? And it's always a great opportunity for them to explain, right? I think as the time passes, most of them now are acquired to see it. I believe, it has become a lot more popular. People recognize more the meaning of BC.GE, but obviously we went through a change, right? A few years ago, it was still called DGE, right? It was a diplomat geotech engineer. So obviously when we changed it to BC it was a little bit of clarifying that it's just that change from the D to the BC, but I actually take those questions as good because it's an opportunity to illustrate and, explain to clients and explain to people what it means when they are not familiar with it.
Thanks, Sebastian. I
Thank
want to
you.
introduce John Wolosick, who's my colleague and also a senior geotechnical advisor with Keller North America. John, would you share why you chose to pursue board certification?
Well, Ray, after the Geo-Institute of F.ASCE was first established, I was made aware of board certification by a guy named Scott Litkey, who was the executive director of ADSC in Dallas at that time. And Scott provided me with some of the names from the first class to be admitted to AGP many years ago. And I was very familiar with the people on that list and had always been impressed with their accomplishments. So I wanted to be part of such an organization, with names like that. These engineers were the the names I saw, the engineers, they were the giants that I stood on the shoulders of, for my career. And they were names like Bob Holtz, Rudy Bonaparte, Jean-Louis Briot, and Ed Kavazanjian, who were my heroes, basically. So that's what really got me interested.
Great. What does it mean to you when you see that a geotechnical engineer has obtained their BC.GE certification?
Well, in my everyday work, Ray, I review many, many, many geotechnical investigations and explorations when preparing design build submittals for our clients. And the quality varies, I have to say. But when I review a report that's signed by a board-certified geotechnical engineer, I have confidence in the level of knowledge and experience that's gone into the preparation of the document. And it's pretty easy to see, to be honest with you.
When do you see the BC.GE certification being recognized?
I have to say that in my leadership roles at Keller in North America and industry organizations like the DFI, Deep Foundations Institute, we always recognize board certification as an excellent qualification for leadership, for considering people for leadership in those organizations.
Thanks, John. Appreciate it.
No problem.
Now we'll have some thoughts from Vanessa Baitman. Vanessa is Chief of Civil Works Engineering and Construction at the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Vanessa, would you please tell us why you chose to pursue board certification?
Sure. It's interesting. I actually started very early on in my career with issues around licensure as a geologist. I'm a geotechnical engineer as well as a geologist. And I learned from that experience just how valuable a credential of this kind can be. So this post-licensure certification, though, demonstrates that a professional is meeting a very high bar, not just at the PE level, but actually well beyond. And the work that we do here and the work that I have been involved with over my career is really massive infrastructure. These projects have such consequence to the public. And this was part of for me, it was setting an example, saying that I'm keeping up with my profession, that I'm working to continue my knowledge base. And it's a credential that actually says that someone is doing this within geotechnical engineering, as Sebastian said earlier, not just civil engineering, but within the specialty of geotechnical engineering. And further, technical competency in general is one of those focus areas that we keep a pretty good laser focus on at work. And it's because we have a shortage of engineers in our industry. And so we don't necessarily have enough people to go around, and yet we still have to build and maintain these massive infrastructure projects. And so figuring out how to help people learn to grow in their profession, certification like this actually does that. It gives them something to strive for beyond the PE level.
Thanks. You touched on it a little bit. In your role as Chief of Civil Works Engineering, you have a really important impact on infrastructure in the U.S. and really globally. Has the certification helped you communicate the importance of geotechnical engineering issues to lay people, legislators, et cetera?
Yes, I think it does. First, sometimes people don't know what the letters are. What are all these letters after your name? And they'll ask. And you say board certified, and you can see a change. You can see a change in how someone is interacting with you and what their assessment is of what you're talking about. It really indicates that mastery of the profession, and I think it communicates that mastery of the profession to those of us who are not geotechnical engineers, and I think that's valuable in and of itself. I think it really elevates the specialty specifically because we've got this now. You've got this certification that says I've met not only all of these other bars, but I've actually crossed over with this. I've continued my education. I've continued my experience working on more and more difficult projects.
Great. Recently, the USAC entered into a memorandum of understanding with CEC regarding contracting preferences for including board-certified civil engineers on the Corps' project teams. Would you please share the Corps' rationale for that memo, and has adoption impacted the quality of the work you've seen since?
Absolutely. I'd love to give a shout out to Rob Thomas, who is one of our coastal engineers, who actually is the one that brought us the original idea, even though I was already board certified at that time. And as we got to talking about that particular part of the profession and the lack of licensure in that, we really got to looking at all of the boards and saying, this is something that we need. This is a great indicator of technical competency. Again, it kind of focuses us with our younger engineers on a place to go and the things that they need to be learning and doing. And we're in a position of public trust. As I said, we work in some of the most consequential projects in the world. We need to be bringing our best to these projects. It's early days of this adoption as yet, but I certainly expect to see more board certified engineers at the Corps on this board and others, and I'm really excited about it.
Excellent. Thanks, Vanessa. Our next testimonial is from Dr. Bernardo Castellanos. Dr. Castellanos is Research Assistant Professor and Lab Manager at the W.C. English Geotechnical Research Laboratory at Virginia Tech. Bernardo, what was your initial motivation for applying for board certification?
Yes, Franz. So the main reason that I applied for is because it was a certification that was especially tailored for geotechnical engineers. Before that, we have the PE, which certifies engineers. But as we increase the complexity and the size of our projects, a specialized certification was much needed. And also, as Joe Wolosick mentioned, just to follow the steps of those leaders and giants in the profession that at that time were already board certified. And the last reason is because as the complexity of the projects increases, and the requirement for these high-end projects, the BC.GE might become like the new PE, and it might be required for different roles.
Excellent. Do you believe board certification enhances your credibility with your students and your consulting clients?
Yes, I think it does. And the main reason is because it provides another level of scrutiny and a stamp for your career experience and your achievements. And it also situates you among the best and most recognized people in the profession.
Have your students remarked at all about the BC.GE as an aspirational goal for their careers?
Not really. And the main reason is because that's so far in their career that I don't think they have that in the radar. We don't talk in our classes about the BC.GE, nor the PE, but we do encourage students to take their MFE exam as soon as possible, which is the first step in this road. And we also introduce our students to to F.ASCE and the importance to participate in the events and conference that are organized, which shows them an importance on being active in the profession and becoming certified in the future.
Thanks, Bernardo. It's really helpful to have a perspective from academia in this presentation. As our final testimonial, we'll hear from Ms. Shauna Erter. Ms. Erter serves on the leadership team at geotechnical consulting firm SCI Engineering, Inc., and she is also an active member of the Board of Trustees for AGP. Shauna, what has been the impact of achieving board certification on your career?
You know, the impact is, it's one of those things that's really hard to put a value to. I think Sebastian mentioned it. A lot of it is a personal satisfaction that you've reached that next bar, the next level. It has been very, very important to me. My mentor and boss, T. Michael McMillan, some of you may know him, retired now, but he was a huge advocate of what was at the time diplomat, but the board certification and the continuing education, and he was constantly speaking to it, and that's why I kind of use this as my quote, because that's kind of how he dealt with it. This is just what you're going to do. This is what you need to do to be successful and to represent our firm and to represent the industry. And so understanding that and that personal satisfaction of being able to meet those and understanding from Mike, you know, he was listing names of people he was meeting with at his meetings and things, and they were, you know, the people that wrote the books, they were the people that I looked up to. And if making it to that next level was being a part of that group, I felt that was extremely important to me.
Thank you. When you're asked about board certification and its value, how do you respond?
Yeah, like I said, it's really hard to put that value to it. But I can say how I talk to people is that it's opened some doors for me. You know, kind of like Jerry spoke in the beginning, when you think about a medical doctor and those kind of people, when you have an issue, you want to make sure that somebody's board certified. You want to make sure that you're getting advice from the best of the best. And I think people are starting to see that. You know, I've had instances where even on some contracts where it required a board certified person, and it's been able to open some doors or differentiate our firm from maybe some others that don't have those. But at the same time, I think Vanessa was speaking to it. I've been in several large project meetings where somebody will ask, what is the BC? And when they understand that it's board certified, you can tell that the rest of the meeting, they kind of look to me first for answers. You kind of get elevated to, oh, this is going to be the person that I trust their advice. And so you kind of automatically become that trusted advisor. And I think that's just going to continue to build as these certifications grow.
Great. I think you've touched on my next question a little bit. You mentioned that Mike had really encouraged your pursuit of the certification. Have there been any other activities or means by which your employer or your clients have actively recognized the credential?
Yeah, absolutely. Our employer, I feel like as a leader, you're in the spotlight. And so a lot of times it's more what you do than what you say. And so setting the example for not only my own employees, but employees in the industry as a whole is very important. I've had a lot of clients as well. Again, we all use it on our signature line. And when I'm giving presentations, it's always on there. And almost every presentation, at least one person will ask, what is the BC? And as Sebastian said, it's a fantastic opportunity to explain it. And you can see in their eyes as you're explaining it, oh, that's something we should probably look for. That's something, and we try to have that discussion. Like this is very important for your projects to make sure that these board certified engineers are involved in your projects. And again, I think it's just going to continue to grow and to gain momentum as more people understand it. So to be able to be a part of that and educating others, I think is extremely important.
Excellent. I want to shift gears a little bit. Earlier on, Sebastian presented the application requirements or the process for certification. And he hinted at the examination portion, the oral panel review, and wanted to get your perspective on that process and your experience for the candidates on the phone. Maybe you could share an item or two on that, if you would, please.
Absolutely. I'll share my experience and happy to answer questions that others have, because I know it is it's a little bit daunting when you think about it. And to be honest, so I had a 3-person panel. I went to get I didn't want to wait for the full years of experience and all that kind of stuff. Again, I was trying to get through and get the board certification. And so I opted to take the panel. And I'm actually very glad that I did. It was a fantastic experience. I was very nervous going in. 2 of the panelists, they gave me the names maybe a week or so ahead of time. And 2 of them were professors who had written the textbooks that I had learned from. So that was something, trying to say I'm going to say anything and have them question that. And I kind of felt like it was going to be more of a master's thesis defense type of situation, but it was not at all. The panelists were fantastic, and really I was treated as an equal of theirs, and I was just presenting a project, and they were genuinely interested in my project and what I did. So I presented on a technical project for like 45 minutes, and then answered questions for 15 or 20 minutes. And again, it was very genuine. Everybody, they brought me in at a level that made me feel like I was equal to them, and we were just having questions and understanding, and I was able to even ask them some questions about things they might have done differently if it was their project, and learn from each other. So again, I was very nervous in the beginning. It was a little daunting, but at the end, I am so glad I did it, and it was a fantastic experience.
Thank you for sharing that, Shawnna. That's really helpful, I think. I appreciate it very much. Those are a few of the testimonials we wanted to share with you on the webinar today. I think we have some questions, Robin and Jen, that we might want to direct to the panelists, or some might be more appropriate for CEC representatives to answer, but perhaps we can move to those and try and capture that.
Yeah, we've got a lot of great questions. We did receive a few about graduate degrees, such as the master's and Ph.D., and how those may count towards experience credit. And if they do, can you stack them? Like, for example, does the MS count for X amount of years and Ph.D. count for X amount of years of experience, and can you stack those?
I will defer to Jen and Frank, but it's my belief that the clock starts after the degrees are conferred, and there's not a distinction between the graduate degrees. But maybe Jen or Frank can expand on that.
Yes, and I have put a couple of links in the chat to really detailed eligibility requirements, because we have quite robust set of rules, and it might just be easier for you to look at the rules in detail to kind of see what is applicable to your particular experience. But yes, Ray is correct in general, regardless of if you have a master's and a PhD or a master's, you need that 10 years of professional experience.
Yeah, and if I can add a little bit. Yeah, because I know this has been discussed a lot in the past. So there is a difference into what you can count as experience when you apply for the PE and when you apply for the BC.GE. And I know a lot of, maybe some of these questions come from there, right? If you apply for the PE, typically they require certain years of experience, but if you have a PhD, then that discounts, right? Kind of saying that your PhD kind of count as some of these years. I think when it comes down to BC.GE, it's not exactly like that. There is a benefit from having the advanced degrees, which is instead of having the 15-year experience that you are required to have, if you just have your undergrad, you can reduce that 15 years to 10 years, right? But the years itself of doing the master's does not discount the years of experience. I think what this certification is looking is that you truly have years of experience of doing geotechnical projects and working in the industry. And those 10 years or 15 years cannot be replaced, right? So it goes into I know it sounds like a lot of years and things like that, but that's the reason this certification, it's for later in your career. I always like to explain that there is a big difference between, applying on a PE than applying on this. The application itself for this is relatively simple. I always say if you go online, it takes you a few minutes, probably more than a few minutes. I may be like Jerry exaggerating, but it's going to be probably like an hour tops. You already have all this information available from your resume and things like that. Getting to that point of your career takes a while, right? So it's, you just have to understand that you have to pass through all these stages of your career and apply. And I think Bernardo was explaining it, like at Virginia Tech, like he doesn't really cover this in his classes yet, because when you're an undergrad, this is relatively early for you. It's important that this is down the road, but you gotta go first through all these steps of the EIT, the PE, and all that, and eventually this is waiting for you. So, but nothing really replaces GXO experience, right?
Thanks, Sebastian. Robin, do we have some more?
Yes, we do. There's actually one specifically for Vanessa Baitman. Do you anticipate BC.GE becoming a requirement for federal contracts in the future? Example, requiring BC.GE for F.ASCE Part 12 inspections?
So I think that we're not there at this point. However, it would definitely be a factor in choosing a firm to be doing the kind of work that we are going to be doing. So I think it will definitely have an import. At the moment, no, but that does not mean we wouldn't move there in the future.
Thank you, Vanessa. And so we do have some other questions about how does CEC anticipate the BC.GE interacting with state GE licensing in the future? Do you think that BC.GE will end up replacing the GE license? Will the GE license become relevant to BC.GE certification? So it's quite a big question there, Ray?
I might take a stab at that. I don't think they'll be replaced. I think that the administrative functions of the licensing boards are slightly different. So I don't think there's a replacement. I would say that for the states that do have GE licensure as a specialty, those folks that are licensed or registered with those qualifications are very, very well positioned to achieve the board certification. That said, my comment from earlier, I think, still holds true. The GE licensure, even the PE licensure, are calibrated by time in the profession and by sitting for the examination. And the board certification is slightly different in that it's an examination of project experience and the body of work that one has delivered. And not simply studying for 9 months and sitting through a 8 or 12 or 16-hour examination. So it's a bit of a distinct assessment. My thought is that it doesn't replace, but enhances the specialty licensure. Hopefully that helps a little bit. Jennifer, from your CEC perspective, is there any interaction, motivation, et cetera, from CEC or AACE at a higher level to interact with licensing boards or NCES or organizations like that?
There is not. And I see that there were a couple of questions that are kind of similar to that initial question about the interaction between the BC.GE and the GE license. But Ray, I think you answered it, as best as we can. And at this point, they are just, they're distinguished. The PE license, the GE license, that's one credential. And then the BC.GE is separate. And we haven't really coordinated, with any of the state licensing boards on that.
Okay. Robin, what else do we have?
All right. So we have a question about, curious to know if the AGP plan to attract more international applicants for the BC.GE?
Oh, I can take a stab on that one because it's
please do.
international, right? So, no, it is. I mean, and that's part of what it relates. When we were talking before about the PE and the like the G and stuff like that. Those are very jurisdiction related, right? Those are very state related licenses. And of course, this does not replace that at any point because those are requirements by law in those states that you need to have those licenses. The BCG goes even beyond that because it's not only limited to the US, you can also apply outside the US. And we actually have several BCGs that are not living in the US and they are not working in the US. So the requirement basically is that, you have to have, if you work, let me just put an example of a friend that I was passing this information that lives in Chile. He works in Chile, he lives in Chile, right? And it's a very distinguished person in geotechnical engineering there. So he doesn't have a PE because obviously the PE is in the US. So as long as he has the professional registration that you're required there, or take any other territory around the world, as long as you have the requirements that to practice your profession, you are satisfied already. As long as you have that, you can apply to this. And then the requirements will be similar in terms of the years of experience demonstrating projects and things like that. We do have several BCGs around the world that have gone through the certification process, and it's relatively easy. There is not really any complications, and we are used to see those cases. So I encourage a lot of people to apply. If you're abroad the US, this is a great opportunity. You can get a certification that is even, it's a certification given by the American Society of Civil Engineers, CEC, which is, these are great names when you live outside the US, right? And we go through the process of demonstrating that, in fact, you are an expert on geotech in your country, and everything gets checked and all that. And yeah, it's a really good opportunity. It's an additional. So I highly encourage people from abroad to apply.
Jen, I think in the last round of CEC discussions, there have been efforts to understand better the licensing requirements in other countries around the world to help provide more clarity to international applicants, not only in geotechnical engineering, but broadly. Can you speak to that a little bit? Maybe I'm getting ahead of ourselves, but I think that might be helpful in this response.
Yeah, and I've put in the chat a couple of times the detailed eligibility requirements, and they do seem a little I guess it seems a little long, but it also does really have a provision for, various types of engineers, whether you're, a master's degree level, whether you don't have a master's degree. We've really tried to create pathways for a variety of engineers. So there are a couple different pathways for our international applicants. So one requirement would be, if you're practicing in the United States, we want you to have a PE license, right? However, if you're practicing in the UK and you have your chartered engineering license, then that meets that requirement. So the caveat there is you need to be residing and practicing in the country for which you have the equivalent license. If you're in a country that doesn't have an equivalent to the PE license, we have a provision where you just need to have more years of experience. And again, this is all kind of spelled out pretty in detail in some of the things I put in the chat and as well as on the AGP website. But again, if you didn't have a PE equivalent, you would need 15 years of experience and you'd be eligible to apply. And on the CEC level, we're really trying to, Sebastian is part of our outreach committee. Beyond the eligibility requirements, we're also working on strategies to, build awareness internationally around the value of this certification. So we have, several things underway in terms of how we revise our eligibility, but also how we're just building that awareness.
Super, thank you. Robin, what else?
All right. So can a person with 9 years of experience and a master's degree begin the process for certification?
Jen?
Yes, we actually just recently launched a really efficient online application process. So you can start your application and you can save it and you can start getting the 3 required references and kind of get a sense of the depth of information we'll be asking for. And you can kind of work on that as you approach that 10 years of experience. And then, once you hit the 10 years, you can go ahead and submit your payment and fully submit that application. But it's really an improved system where you can upload all of your files, your resume, anything you'd like to show to the admissions committee in terms of your qualifications in geotechnical engineering. So I actually advocate, anyone who's interested, you can really get started anytime, and then you can access it via your ASCE online portal and kind of work on it as you have time and just get a sense of what's required. So I do believe you do need those 10 years in order to, officially be approved, but you can certainly start getting things ready in advance.
Thank you.
All right, and actually following on that, talking about the years of experience, should they be related to geotechnical design or construction or geotechnical projects?
I'll give a try at that. There are, I think, 12 different subcategories that are identified in the body of knowledge that can help qualify one for certification. And they overlap from analysis to design to investigation to laboratory studies. There are a number of different pathways, to use Jennifer's words, to achieve certification. So I think there are a number of different perspectives on or roles that one can have and have the experience qualify in evaluation for the credential. I hope that helps a little bit. But you don't have to wait for your project to be constructed, I don't think, to have those years count, nor is that appropriate. But hopefully that helps a little bit.
Ray, if I can add just, I have the website in front of me. Yeah, so the areas of, of geotech experience include site characterization, lab, foundations, slope stability, excavation, tunnels, embankment, geosynthetics, ground improvements, soil and rock, geoenvironmental, earthquake pavements, and it also has a bullet for other. So pretty much, if you are working on geotech engineering and it's through geotech engineer, I think it will count. It will probably go into the body of knowledge. So all the information is on the website, can be found easily.
Thank you.
Okay.
Robin?
Next question. So talking about the certification, does it expire? Are there any needs maybe for taking continuing education credits to maintain it? Anything like that?
Jen, can you touch on that?
Yes, and I think the question was specific to the references, but I can also touch on the maintenance as well, since that's also important. I believe the question was, do the references expire? And I don't believe that they do. I guess I wouldn't tempt fate and get references today and then apply 3 years later, because the application review committee might have questions about what you've been doing for the last 3 years. So they don't officially expire, but I wouldn't wait too long from the time you get your references to the time that you apply. I also see another question that I can address in the chat, if you don't mind, about the cost of the certification. The cost to apply is $350 for ASCE or GI members, and then $450 if you're not a member of the Geo-Institute or ASCE. And then touching on the maintenance of the certification, after you do get certified, you have to annually recertify, and there is a fee related to your annual recertification. And again, members of GI or ASCE get a discount, so that's $200 annually, or $250 if you're not a member of ASCE or the Institute. In addition to sort of paying that application fee, you have to reconfirm each year that you still hold a PE license, that you're still adhering to the ASCE Code of Ethics, and all of the other sort of requirements that, you are still eligible to be a board-certified geotechnical engineer. The other caveat to this is we do have a retired status. So if you hold the credential and you transition and you're no longer actively practicing, maybe you don't have that PE license anymore, you're able to retain the credential in the retired status. And the annual recertification is a slightly lower rate. Starting in October, that'll be $100 for ASCE or GI members and $125 for non-ASCE and GI members. And the last little fact about the recertification is you also have to complete 20 PDH hours annually. And really that's an on your honor when you recertify, you're sort of agreeing that you have met that 20 PDH requirement, including 1 hour of ethics each year.
Okay.
Robin, do we have one last question?
I think we've got one last question, a pretty interesting one. So does the NCEES record program, is it required or acceptable as part of the documents for the application process?
Jen, can you speak to that, or Frank, perhaps? I don't think there's a interaction between systems.
That's correct. There's no interaction between our platform and the NCEES record. And I am unfamiliar of what you all as engineers are able to sort of pull from the NCEES database. But if there's some type of PDF transcript or something that you think would be a valuable sort of supplement to your application, you can certainly upload up to 5 additional files with your application. Certain things are required. As I mentioned, your 3 references are required to apply. So you'll need to upload those via the online portal. Your resume or CV is required. And then you have the opportunity to upload it up to 5 additional documents if there's things like the NCEES record or your diploma or your PE license or anything that you think makes you, sets you apart from other candidates. So I'm not sure if that addresses it, but
yeah, I can help a little bit on that because I also
Great.
get that question a lot. And so this is the secret for the application. So it's great that it's at the end because this is what everyone needs to know. So when you apply, as I mentioned before, it's through the electronic system and it's relatively easy. It's not going to be that you use the same form as you did for your PE or anything like that. But the information itself, it's very similar. So I say it and I maintain it, and people say, how can you say that you apply in less than an hour? You do, because when you get to the point of your career where you apply to this, you already have typically an updated version of your resume, right, that you maintain for work, because when you put proposals, you have to include that. Because of your PE license and all that, you already have copies of all your degrees, you have a copy of your PE license, you have all those documents. So if you did the application, let's say for the PE, 5 years ago or even more, and you have that information that you use, or if you use reciprocity to transfer from one state to the other one, you have the majority of the information that is needed. For people that recently also applied, let's say, to the ASE fellow grade, the information is extremely similar. So if you have gone any of these applications recently, or because of your day-to-day work, you have these documents available, this is extremely simple. You can, I don't want to be taken wrong as copy-paste, but it's like you literally can just copy-paste from one application to the other. You cannot put the PE application form into the application of this, but you can just copy-paste your information. That's what I said. It takes you 10, 15 years or whatever to get to the point to apply to this, but the application itself, because of the resources you already have used on your career, the application itself is extremely streamlined.
Well, thanks, everyone. We're at the top of the hour. I want to thank you all for participating today. I hope you've learned more about the BC.GE credential and will strongly consider application. We all look forward to seeing you at upcoming industry events. Please reach out to CEC staff or to the board with any future questions, and enjoy the remainder of your day. Thanks very much.